Hello, everyone. A warm welcome and thank you for joining the Leveraging B2B E-Commerce webinar presented to you by DHL Express. My name is Eugene from the DHL Express Regional Commercial Team, and I will be your moderator for this webinar. Please do note that this webinar will be recorded and the recording will be made available to you after this webinar. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of this webinar, and may I invite you to put in your questions via slido.com simply by scanning the QR code you see now on your screen with the event code DHL B2B. To kickstart this webinar, I'd like to first invite Yasmin Khan, Executive Vice President for Commercial, DHL Express APAC, to give us an opening address. Yasmin, please.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, Yasmin, we can hear you.
So sorry. So in March this year, DHL Express, we released a white paper titled The Ultimate B2B E-Commerce Guide. The topic of B2B e-commerce generated a lot of interest from many of our customers, and I'm hoping that some of you are attending this session today, as well as from our e-commerce partners. Especially during this period where B2B businesses have had to be a lot more flexible in adapting to the changing business environment brought about by the pandemic. We know that the pace of B2B e-commerce growth has not really slowed down. Research has shown that B2B e-commerce growth is really outpacing B2C e-commerce, and the global B2B sales revenue is expected to reach US $20 trillion by 2027. Now we know that Asia presents us with an enormous opportunity for B2B e-commerce growth, with more businesses buying online and the changing purchasing behavior of B2B buyers. So this is therefore the right time for businesses to ride on this growth curve. Now, our group's sustainability roadmap strategy focuses on three key areas, commonly known as ESG, or environment, social, and governance. Under the social area, we in DHL are driving a big focus on our social impact programs. So in DHL, we want to facilitate trade development by helping SMEs to access the global markets. And e-commerce is a key enabler that will help us in connecting people, improving lives. That is why DHL Express is organizing these webinar series to help businesses in our region to become more successful by being the first movers in B2B e-commerce and integrating B2B e-commerce as part of your sales strategy. So today we are really honored to have Linda and Gianluca joining us from Europe. And through their insights and sharing, we hope you'll find today's webinar beneficial and start considering B2B e-commerce as a source of your business growth. So stay tuned for the subsequent DHL B2B e-commerce webinars that will be coming up from now into 2022. And we really hope that our DHL sales representatives in your respective countries would have an opportunity to chat with you and discuss your business's e-commerce growth plans. So thank you, and I hope you will enjoy today's session. Back to you, Eugene.
Thank you, Yasmin. Right, moving right along to our first speaker, and he's Mr. Lindert Vendel, Vice President for Global Sales Programs, Development and Global E-Commerce for DHL Express. He will be sharing with us on the topic of gearing up your business for B2B e-commerce. The stage is yours, Lindert.
Yes, thank you, Eugene. Much appreciated. Let's see if the slide control is working well. Yes, there we go. So, Jasmine, thanks a lot for the good opening. Indeed, I think you really set the tone. The time is now. I think that's one key message, and the opportunity for growth is enormous, and that's also coming back in the next 20 minutes. First of all, of course, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everybody. Great to have so many like-minded people here together to talk about this topic, which I think is one of the benefits of this new virtual world and the new normal, so to say, that bringing these people together in an hour, talk about an exciting topic, and then everybody starts their day and continues. Before we start the presentation, actually, I first want to explain one thing, I think it's always good to start with a definition. What is B2B e-commerce? We heard the word B2B e-commerce a lot already in the past 5 minutes, but what do we mean with B2B e-commerce? If you go online and you search for a definition of B2B e-commerce, you may find lots of variations. For example, that it is business-to-business electronic commerce, which means that businesses is facilitated online in some kind of way, which is of course true. But if you apply that definition to B2B e-commerce, you can almost classify everything as B2B e-commerce, because it's not the case anymore that we are sending in a letter to place our order, or that we're sending in smoke signals to place our order. No, in some kind of way, trade is facilitated online. But in this webinar, and how we as DHL Express look at B2B e-commerce, it's a business buying from another business where the full transaction is facilitated online via a transactional website, without the need to become a customer first, without the need to speak to a salesperson, or without the need, for example, to log into a gated portal where you need to have your secret user ID and your secret password. So in simple terms, it is actually that B2C type of experience in a B2B world. And that is what we mean with B2B e-commerce. And Jasmine already mentioned some of the figures, but this market is growing very, very hard. I want to highlight a few numbers on the slide right here. If you look back at 2019, the estimated market value of B2B e-commerce was already 12.3 trillion globally. And to put that in perspective, that is around 3 times the size of the cross-border B2C market. So that is how big this market already is. But Jasmine mentioned the number, the expected, the growth rate at which this market will grow is very significant. And estimations is that by 2027, this market will grow to a close to 21 trillion market. And even the latest estimates are slightly higher, or around 22 trillion. So that is how fast this market is developing. And if you look back at 2020, and that's the 12% number here on the slide, in 2020, it was estimated that out of all B2B trade, so out of all B2B transactions, around 12% was facilitated in a B2B e-commerce kind of way. So that percentage is actually quite small. And I would ask you to keep that percentage, that 12% number in mind, because we will be coming back to that one. And the reason why this market is developing so fast, there are a few factors at play here. One is that the expected growth curve B2B e-commerce will grow through will be much steeper and much faster than B2C e-commerce. Because if you look back at B2C e-commerce, or actually if you look back at e-commerce in general, you may argue when e-commerce started. I think the most accurate year is 1979. Yes, 1979. That is when Michael Aldrich connected a computer to a television, and via that he facilitated orders via the internet. Or you can say, oh, it's 1995 when Amazon started, for example. But since then, e-commerce went a growth curve, the top of that S-curve. But of course, B2B and all those learnings, and apply that to the way how they generate trade and how they do sales. So that's one of the factors why this growth curve is expected to grow so fast. Another factor which is at play is that this is driven by B2B buyers' behavior. See if the slides are moving. Yes. Because B2B buyers, they are also private individuals, and they're also used to buy stuff online in the weekend for their private purposes. And if you look at some of the numbers here, we work together during our research, we work together with Gartner, and Gartner is expecting that due to that buyer's behavior, by 2025, so that's not that long ahead, around 80% of all B2B sales transactions will occur in digital channels. So compare that to that 12% number. So that's how fast this market is developing. If you look at the millennials, and I will come back to the millennials, 44% of millennials by 2025, they prefer no sales rep interaction whatsoever in a B2B purchasing session. In other words, if you do not have a way for those customers to facilitate and to buy from you online, you may lose them. So that's also the risk of losing out. And due to all these factors, many companies are planning to increase in their e-commerce websites. And that's, of course, it's a topic which is close to my heart. So I'm very happy with this 64% number here. But what we also notice is that many companies are looking around. They're looking around for support, as in, okay, how, if I want to set up my B2B e-commerce channel, how do I need to do it? And that's one of the reasons why we launched this white paper. And that is one of the reasons why we did our research and work with many customers, like Mr. Worker, for example, and you'll be hearing from Gianluca and his story later, in order to see, okay, what are the right things to do? If you then look at, one second, yeah, there we go. If you're going to the next slide. So if you look at the status quo today, it's not the case that every company is already set up well in B2B e-commerce. And again, one of the main messages is B2B companies should learn the lessons from the B2C playbook. But if you go online and try to buy something from a B2B company, in many companies, you run into a process where you have to download a PDF, or you need to leave your contact details so a customer, so that a sales rep can call you back. And there's not a way to easily trade online. And yes, there are many good examples, fortunately, but there are also many examples where there's still room for improvement. And today already, 80% of B2B buyers, they expect that same buyer experience which they're getting in their private life, which they're getting as a B2C customer. That's important to keep in mind, is how much does my online customer journey and how much does my online customer experience reflect the B2C experience? If you then look at that status quo, and if you look at what customers, what B2B buyers are experiencing today, those numbers are not so positive, actually. And this is the latest research. This was done very recently in October 2021 by Sana Commerce, is what they're saying, that 50% of all the B2B e-commerce sites are not meeting the buyer's expectations. So that's a big number. 94% of B2B buyers, they're suffering from a bad customer experience if they go online. And 1/3 of B2B buyers is frustrated by some of the functional elements, or actually the missing of some of the functional elements on B2B websites. And again, B2B e-commerce is not having a website. Every company has a website nowadays, but it's not about sharing your mission and sharing your company history and sharing your office locations and sharing a way so that a sales rep can reach out to you. It's all about an easy way so that your buyers and your potential buyers, which is even more important, can easily transact online. And in another piece of research, B2B buyers were asked, like, what is the main criteria when you're going to choose a new supplier? Because B2B e-commerce is a great way to attract new customers and to attract customers from locations where you would not even expect it. And I know that Gianluca later on has some very nice examples about that one as well. To give a little sneak peek, I was thinking about rebranding this webinar to how to sell to NASA. I will not say anything more, but Gianluca can tell that story way better than I can. But in the research, when B2B buyers were asked, okay, what is your top criteria when you look for a new supplier? Here you can see the top 5. And I can tell you, price is not in there. No, number 1 is the ability to place an order online, 72%. 52% was saying, I don't want to wait for a sales rep to get in contact with me. Number 3 was, I want to have insights into the delivery times, the delivery options, the inventory, what can I buy, etc. And also order tracking and grade level of product detail also made it to the list. But this is good to keep in mind if you think about your typical customer. Are they focused on price? No, perhaps not. Perhaps this is what they want to see when they look for a new supplier. Then looking at some of the, zooming in on some of the reasons why this change is happening so fast. So we already mentioned the millennials. Millennials today, they are no longer the people who just left university. No, this year, millennials can be turning 40. Actually, I'm one of them, grew up with the internet, which grew up with their mobile phones in their hands. And their experience in their private life is very much influencing what they expect to see from B2B companies. This is important to keep in mind. And millennials today, they will be in the decision-making positions at your customers. They can be the head of procurement, they can be the head of sourcing, they can be the head of product. And these are the people who will be pressing the button as in where to buy or where not to buy. Another factor which is at play for this whole B2B e-commerce growth curve is, we'll wait for the slide to load, is of course the pandemic. And of course, we cannot have a webinar today without mentioning the word pandemic, but the pandemic had a significant impact in how B2B companies were generating sales. Because in many cases, B2B companies were depending on, let's call it a traditional sales engine with in-person sales interactions, where a salesperson would fly overseas, meet a customer, or would jump in his car, drive to a meeting, sit down and convince a customer why their company is a good one to do business with. Or all these trade fairs and events, and I'm sure that many of you here in this webinar will have visited lots of them in the past. Just ask yourself, how many trade fairs or events did you attended physically in the last 18 or 19 months? For me, the answer is 0, or before it was very regular. So that's also something to keep in mind. And when B2B buyers were asked, and that was research was done by McKinsey, is they were asked like, okay, once everything is back to normal, once everybody is vaccinated and life happens in a normal way, do you want this in-person sales to return? And only 20% say yes to that question. In other words, 80%, with now being used to trading online, they want that way of doing business to stay there. And I'm always naming the example of my father, actually. My father is 74 years young, never bought online in his whole life. I think it was 3-4 months into the lockdown in the Netherlands that he sent me a picture very proudly in his new clothes saying, hey, I bought something online for the first time in my life. And oh my God, this is so good and this is the best. And by the way, it was delivered by DHL. I asked him the question, are you going to do this more often now? He said, yes, for sure. This is so easy. I never did this before. And that's the same in B2B e-commerce. Once customers are getting used to easily trading online or finding a company via which they can easily trade online, they will come back for more there. And B2B e-commerce is also not only for the small orders, because in the same research, what was shown is that B2B e-commerce is not just for your aftermarket business or your spare part business. No, B2B decision makers are willing to place significant orders in single transactions online. That is how much people trust the internet, and that is how much people trust e-commerce. And to name some percentages here, around 60% was actually 59%. 59% of B2B decision makers are saying that they're fully willing and comfortable to spend in excess of $50,000 in one single online transaction. So also keep that in mind if you are either investing more in your B2B e-commerce channel or starting the journey on B2B e-commerce, or if you need to have your internal meetings as in, guys, we need to focus on this, and you use these facts to your advantage as well. Let's wait for the slide to load. And there are many benefits to B2B e-commerce. I will not be going through all of them, of course. And I think the biggest benefits is not even mentioned here on the slide, because the biggest benefit is the quick ability and the easy way to reach new customers in markets where you were never be able to go to in the past. I think that is one of the biggest benefits of B2B e-commerce. But also, of course, increase profit and price control or brand control, for example. Because if you're selling through distributors or you're selling through a marketplace, for example, there is a place for that. I'm not saying that that's not the right way to do. There is definitely a place for that. But by controlling your own environment, you will control your brand, and your brand has lots of value. If I want to buy something from HP, for example, I go to hp.com. I'm not going to one of their distributors. And that is something what many customers are doing. And of course, data. And we all know that data has surpassed the value of oil already. But also by doing this right, you can collect so much data of your customers, which you can use for upselling on opportunities, build stronger relationships, and with that, increased sales as well. And there are few things mentioned in our white paper when it comes to the barriers and challenges. Because we're not saying it's easy. We're not saying that, oh, you can do this tomorrow and within a week you're up and running. No, it will be a journey, but it is a journey you need to start today. And I think this picture is representing it well. We have been using this picture also internally on our side a lot. When you start something, in the beginning, it may be a bit wobbly and you don't know exactly where you're going, but at one point you will find your way, and then you can go full steam ahead. And that is what this picture also represents. And a few things to keep in mind is some of the barriers and challenges you can come across is you need to have that digital first mindset and apply a good level of agility within your company. And I'm not saying that you need to have a digital only mindset, a digital first mindset. Or when it comes to elements like customs and cross-border shipping, because if you're successful at this, you may suddenly be receiving orders from countries which you never may have heard of before. And of course, that comes with specific customs formalities as well. And of course, that is where DHL is there to support you. And there's the pricing element. Feedback we're getting many times is, yeah, but what about my pricing? And in our white paper, we explain various ways how you can use pricing in a right way in order to facilitate the needs of your customers. One of the things we worked on is something we called the B2B E-Commerce flywheel. You may have heard about the flywheel concept. It's coming from the book from Jim Collins, From Good to Great. If you haven't read it yet, and there he talks about the flywheel concept, and he set up our business. And we applied a similar flywheel concept to B2B e-commerce. And I will not be talking through detail in all the steps. Feel free to reach out to one of our representatives, and they're more than happy to support you with that. But the journey starts, of course, with having your online platform. And it's not just having your online platform. Once you have it, you need to actively migrate your customers from offline way of doing sales to your new e-commerce way of doing sales. You can do this by various marketing initiatives, by direct mailing initiatives, and there are many ways how you can make sure that you can get customers to your platform, because not everybody will find it automatically. Once your customers are there, you need to give them a specific hook. You need to give them something why they should buy right there. So that is where promotional programs, loyalty programs, etc. comes in. And this is also where the data collection will start, because this is where you will have the visibility of how are people behaving on your website. If they buy product A, are they also buying product B? And customers who come from this country, which products are they buying? And that's really where the data collection will start to show its value. Third step, now on the bottom left quadrant, is you need to make sure that internally that your business processes are skilled and that you have the right people as well. Because if you're new to the B2B e-commerce game, B2B e-commerce or e-commerce in general is a very specific topic, and you need to have the right people with the right skill set or work with the right partners with the right skill set who can help you on this journey. And then lastly is you need to make sure that your B2B e-commerce flywheel connects with others. And this is where the term omni-channel comes in. Because again, we're not saying it's digital only. We're not saying that, okay, a few years from now, 100% of trade will happen in e-commerce. I think actually the percentage will get very close to that, but there will always be a way for that form of traditional sales. But if you set this up right, you can make sure that your salespeople can focus on those value-added cases and that they don't have to focus on the order-taking process of customers. So that is something which can happen on your website. And this is how you can get the whole e-commerce flywheel spinning. The last point I wanted to share is one thing we also applied to B2B e-commerce is something what we call the website health check. We did the same in B2C e-commerce, which was a very simple 10-point checklist, which we used towards the B2C markets, how to make sure that your website is optimized for, one, the cross-border consumer, and number two, how to make sure that you use shipping and delivery as an advantage and as a competitive advantage, actually. And we apply now the same methodology for B2B e-commerce. And some things are similar versus B2C e-commerce. And again, that relates to the fact that B2B buyers, they expect that B2C type of experience. And also here, I will not talk through all the points, but there are 2 points which I wanted to highlight, which are also different to B2C. One is, do you have detailed product descriptions on your website? Because when I'm buying something as a private individual, and I'm buying this t-shirt, for example, I would like to know what's the color, what's the size. Perhaps I would like to know what material is it made from. Is it made out of cotton or organic cotton? And that's most likely where my criteria ends. But if I buy something in my professional capacity and I'm buying a specific part on a website or I'm buying a specific part on Mr. Worker, for example, I want to make sure that that part and that thing which I'm buying will fit into my existing business processes, and that will have the right connections, and then I can work with it, and then it can connect with everything I'm already having in place in my company. And that is why detailed product descriptions is that important. And we've seen examples where customers had everything in place. They had a good website, they applied the website health check, they had the right way for their customers to trade and buy online, but they were forgetting this step of detailed product descriptions. And what happened is many customers went to the website, many customers were navigating through the website, but after that, the phones of the customer service start ringing off the hook because there were all these customers online who wanted to speak with somebody and say, yeah, I found this product, but I have just a few more questions. And that is why detailed product descriptions is that important. The last point is about payment options. Also, in B2C e-commerce, we always spoke about having localized payment options. That if you sell to China, you need to offer Alipay. If you sell to the Netherlands, you need to offer Ideal as a payment service, because 91% of the Dutch guys, they want to pay with Ideal. And perhaps you've never heard of it, but when I see a website where there's no Ideal, I will not buy there. But in B2B e-commerce, first of all, there are different amounts at play. So you need to make sure that your payment options can facilitate those big orders as well. And not everybody has a credit card via which they can place an order of 10,000 euros or 5,000 euros or 20,000 euros. And it's also about thinking about extended payment terms, bank transfers. And of course, this is not something you have to develop yourself, but also here you can work with several partners. Think about companies like Klarna, think about companies like eMerchant Pay. They can support you in setting up your payment options for B2B e-commerce in the right way. So in closing, before we're going to listen to the story of Gianluca, I think the key messages are, first of all, this world is going through a rapid change. That's number one. And B2B customers, they really want flexible, convenient customer experiences online when they go to your website. And that needs to reflect the B2C experience. So keep that message in mind as well. And it's not only for, this webinar is not only for those players who are new to the field, but also if you're already investing heavily in this area, you need to keep optimizing. Think about that S-curve, which I mentioned in the beginning. That S-curve is just starting in B2B e-commerce. So you need to stay on top of your game in order to stay ahead of the curve. But one thing we know for sure, we saw the growth opportunity. The payoff will be enormous if doing this right. And the risk of being left behind, of not investing in this area, is also significant. So with that, I really want to thank you for the last 20 minutes. There is room for Q&A as well later on. But with this, Eugene, I'm handing over back to you.
Thank you, Lindet, for your insightful sharing. Now, once again, if you have questions for our speakers, do submit and vote for your questions on slido.com simply by scanning the QR code you see now on your screen with the event code DHLB2B. Moving right along, next, we have the honor of inviting Mr. Gianluca Bersotti, CEO and founder of a very impressive B2B e-commerce site, Mr. Worker, to share with us on his perspective on improving digital experiences for B2B e-commerce. Over to you, Gianluca.
Ciao, Eugene. Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. It's a great pleasure and honor to share with you the story of how we developed and launched a quite successful B2B e-commerce. I mean, the first thing that I'd like to underline is that basically I'm not an e-commerce person. I mean, my background started in 1988, working in marketing in a company called Nestlé, that you know, the Swiss food company. When I moved to Kraft General Foods, another food company, when I joined Walt Disney, where I was Walt Disney Records director, and then the last 6 years in Vodafone. When I was in Vodafone, I was fired as a manager, so I decided, okay, I stopped working for other companies and I found my own company. And so basically I started from scratch, and I started with a digital agency. And among the customers that we had, there was USAG, a very famous Italian tools manufacturer, who asked us some works and an opinion about what they could do in e-commerce. And we presented them a plan, and I remember the chair of the company looking at me and saying, Gianluca, why don't you do it? And I say, why not? I try. So basically, this is a story from a person which is not an e-commerce background, and I think all of you can have my same path. So what about Mr. Worker? The presentation today has this is the index. I'm going to share with you our mission and vision, our business model. What is our history and the company growth, how we manage the growth. Then I'm going to show you our products, brands, target, industry we sell to, customers, the technologies we use, and how we are going to develop further Mr. Worker. So basically, Mr. Worker, that you can see here, the character, we developed also a character, is a global B2B online distributor of professional work tools for industrial maintenance and repairing operations. It's Italian-based. We are based in Milano, but it's a worldwide player, as more than 85% of our turnover is done worldwide. What is impressive is that these worldwide sales are done in more than 170 countries. So basically, we are selling from Zambia to Patagonia, from Zimbabwe to Bhutan, and it's really incredible how we could reach any countries in the world. We have a brand, which is Mr. Worker, that is registered trademark in more than 40 countries. We have more than 80,000 products available right now. When we started, we had very few, but now we reach 80,000, 32 brands we are selling. As I said, we have more than 40,000 customers in 170 countries. So basically, in less than 7 years, we reached 40,000 customers, and we are going to see we have customers like NASA, like Siemens, like Birkenstock, like Versace, like Ducati. So I mean, quite important customers. And we are growing a lot with an average growth rate of more than 50% in the last 7 years. I mean, we are very honored to be awarded. We have been awarded by 3 awards by Netcom, which is the Association of E-Commerce in Europe. And Forbes had an article where we said that Mr. Worker is among the top Italian 10 startups. Okay. Basically, what is our mission and what we are doing? I mean, our idea when we developed this Mr. Worker concept is to digitally innovate the purchasing process of industrial maintenance to supply. You know, the kind of process where you had a sales agent going to the buyer and I mean, showing the catalog and so on. So we say, now we digitally innovate this process, and we developed a new model and a platform, which is the Mr. Worker platform, based on 2 elements. Okay, so the digital component should be a very important part in the buying process, and then we had to have a global approach. Why a global approach? Because today it's a global world. Any kind of brand, any kind of industry has many manufacturing plants all around the world. If you wanted to serve this kind of customer, you need to be able to send the good to each location all around the world. I give you an example. One of our most important customer in Italy is Versace, you know, the fashion company. Why Versace choose Mr. Worker? Because basically we are sending them, they send us an order saying, okay, we sell storage products for their dresses in their boutiques. So Versace send us the order saying, okay, please send this to the boutique in Paris, this other to the boutique in Miami, this other to the boutique in Tel Aviv. So they have one interface, which is Mr. Worker, serving the boutiques all around the world, which something today I think is very important, is a global approach. And when you are thinking about a global approach, you need a global partners, because shipment, of course, and logistics is the key for winning in such an approach. Moving on. I'd like to share with you our business model. So basically, the business model is based on a worldwide lead generation through digital marketing. So basically, we do marketing campaigns worldwide to find persons interested in our products, and we take them to the platform of Mr. Worker. On the platform, you can do 2 things. Or buy online, which is basically the classic e-commerce e-commerce method. And this area weighs about 55% of our turnover. Or otherwise, if you are a company, so a very big company, and you need a huge order, you have to think that Mr. Worker, which started selling products of few euros last year, had his biggest order was 200K euro in Cambodia. So I'm talking about a quite impressive order. So for this kind of orders, you are on the platform and you can ask for a quote, and then you have this digital relationship between the customer and our sales rep. We have many sales rep all around the world. We have also a branch in Bangkok, where we have a sales rep for all of the ASEAN Pacific market. So basically, this B2B approach to e-commerce is based on a pure e-commerce way to buy and a facilitated digital relationship, a B2B relationship. And as I said, when you have this kind of global approach, you need also to be able to ship anything in the world. Our motto is we ship everything everywhere. So we are able to ship from the single pack, 1 kilo, half kilo pack to Italy, to the many pallets or containers all around the world. Again, to have a logistic partner which helps you managing this complexity is very, very, very important. And I have to say, for the time being, DHL has been really a fantastic partner in our journey. Okay, just a little story about our company. We launched it as an Italian company, what's called Attrezzi Utensili. And we had, of course, the Italian store. Then we developed a German store. After that, we were very close to close the company because it was a really unsuccess. And so we said, okay, we have the translation ability, so why don't we do it an international shop? And we did it. And that was the start of an international growth, very important, that we could then consolidate, having a venture capital, investing in Attrezzi Utensili. And with the money we get from this venture capital, we launched and rebranded the Attrezzi Utensili store in Mr. Worker, developed a new IT platform, and launched the Thai store and opened the Bangkok branch. After that, we launched the hub, we launched the UK and US store. And in 2020, we opened the Russian store with some Russian people dedicated to that market. And we introduced Salesforce. And this year, very important is that now we have found an industrial investor. It's an Italian tool company which invested in the company. And we are dealing with other important funds for helping the Mr. Worker to grow more. What I'd like to share with you about this story is that, of course, you need to, I mean, it's a chance. It's sometimes really you make something and you say, I hope this is gonna work. And sometimes it works and sometimes not. But basically, you need money. So very important is the financing of your path. If you're thinking about developing a very important e-commerce, you need to path to have clear the financing of the project. How do you want it? Very important is to have right people on board. Very important is to have right technology on board. But I'm going to share with you more ahead of the technology.
Hi, I'm Mr. Worker.
Sorry, I just wanted to share with you a video which can give you a better idea of what is Mr. Worker. So now we have the Mr. Worker video.
Hi, I'm Mr. Worker. I want to share with you the new way to buy online the ultimate work tools for professional maintenance and repair operations. Over 70,000 technical products of the best brands. Worldwide shipping. Technical advice and custom quotes. Request a quote or buy online. Mr. Worker. Work tools for professionals.
Great. So this is a short video which I think sum up very well what we are and what we have developed. Okay, moving on. As I said, we are an e-commerce for professional tools for MRO. We have 80,000 products. We sell hand tools, power tools, hydraulics and plumbing, electronics, and we have, for example, very segmented tools for like no sparking tools, which are for oil and gas platform, or we have aviation equipment for the aviation maintenance and so on. So this is the kind of product that we sell. And these are the brands that we sell. We have 3M, we have many brands, American brands, German brands, Italian brands. So we have more than 32 brands, and I mean the top of the top quality maintenance product for MRO. And talking about the target, because when you develop an e-commerce, of course, you have to have a clear idea of what is the target. In this case, and this is a situation that you find very often in the B2B market, you have to think about the target in two ways. Who is the user, but who is the buyer? Because in our case, these are two different persons. The user is the hand worker, is the Mr. Worker. You can find him here, it's the hand worker. But the tools in the industry, in the company, are bought by the company purchasing department. And especially in all around the world, the company purchase department ask help to local distributors and trade company. So basically, we have this target is our buying target: company purchasing department and local distributor and trading company. Often can be the professional hand worker buying by himself the product. And then you have to think about not only your target, but the industries you want to hit. For example, as I said, we have a specific product for aerospace, oil and gas, but we are very strong also in automotive, construction, steel and mining, energy, shipyard maintenance, and industrial equipment. Great. So this is one of my pride. I mean, this is the kind of customers that we achieved, and I mean, this is a message to all of you that, I mean, the web, via the web, you can do incredible stuff. I mean, I never thought when I started that I could sell to NASA. NASA bought from us. I mean, think about selling to NASA without the web. How do you think you can? You go to Orlando and you wait months to be received by someone in NASA, while we didn't do anything. And they came and buy, and they bought many times. And we have other companies, like, for example, Saudi Aramco, the biggest oil company in the world. We have been bought by Coca-Cola in Atlanta. We have a lot of aviation company like Lufthansa, United Airlines, and many others. Air Tanzania, for example, we have Air Tanzania buying from us. They don't know how to find the products in Tanzania, and they buy from us. So really, this is, I think, the big dream, the hope that everybody approaching the web should have in mind. The opportunity are really worldwide and incredible. Okay. moving on, this is the geography of our sales. As I said, we are an Italian company, but Italy accounts only 14%. We are the best country for us in United Kingdom, followed by United States and many other with a small percentage, Germany, Thailand, Canada, Ireland, Singapore. Singapore is the 8th country, France, Indonesia, Spain, Australia, Brunei, Belgium. So, I mean, really, 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 really worldwide. And if you see at the revenues by area, of course, Euro is the main country, the main area with 43%. When we have North America with almost 20%, Asia Pacific 16%, Italy 14%, Middle East, Africa, Latin America, and Russia. So really all around the world. Okay, this is something that I'd like to share with you because it's our figures. I mean, we are talking about 40K customers, which made 52K orders. So on average, any customers made 1.4 orders. The average order value is 216, and the average customer value is almost 300 euros. But if you look at the recurrent customers, so out of these 40K customers, the 7K customers which are recurrent, so they buy many times, you see that they have developed 20K orders. So the average for any recurrent customer is 3 orders per customers. The value of the order is 50% more than the value of the average of all customers. But it's very interesting, the average customer value is 3 times the value of the standard customers. And I mean, this kind of customer base is made by very different customers. I mean, customers buying few euros and customer buying, for example, 200K, which is, I said, the highest single order value order that we had in our history. Or, for example, as I was talking to you about the Versace history, we had Versace is buying from us, is bought from us 132 orders, because as I said, we give them this worldwide shipping, which is very important for them. So when you develop an e-commerce, you have to think and to be able to use many technologies. For example, here I put some as very important was like Lender was talking about the payment methods. So I put here Stripe and Alipay, but there are many, many, many. So you have to develop a lot the payment aspects. And then you have the core of e-commerce. It's we are using an open source, which is PlayStation. We have intelligent artificial intelligence features developed by Clerk, which is a Danish company, which are product suggestion and search suggestion. And then, of course, we have Salesforce, which is our CRM, which is very centric to our architecture of technology. Then you have Cloudflare, which are cloud facilities for having a global reach and so on. So keep in mind, please, when developing an e-commerce means using many and different technologies that you have to learn, and you have to find the right supplier for them. What else? Our strategy is to grow more and more. We are thinking about more than doubling our size. We're gonna be 5 times what we are now. In 5 years, we are gonna reach 500,000 products. And we are gonna open new branches in US, UK, Middle East, and Latin America. We are going to develop a Mr. Worker brand label. So we're going to have Mr. Worker tools. and then we are gonna develop Mr. Worker as a marketplace. And then last but not least, we are gonna develop e-procurement solution. So basically, this is, I think, a good story of how an e-commerce was founded, how it was growth, and how to manage it, and the strategy for the development in the future. Now I leave the word to Eugene, and I am at your disposal for any question and getting into the deep of some arguments. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you, Gianluca. Thank you very much. And I'm sure after seeing the successes of Mr. Worker's B2B e-commerce journey, many are already inspired and more confident to grow their business internationally through B2B e-commerce. We will now move on into our Q&A session, and may I invite you to submit and vote for your questions via slido.com with the event code DHLB2B. So I see that we already have a stream of questions coming in. And once again, submit your questions via the QR code you see on the screen. And we will now dive right into the question and answer session for our panelists. Right. The first question that we see on top, I believe it's for Lindet. What industries in B2B would you think are the fast movers? And where do you think are the biggest opportunities?
Yes, I can take that one. I think first of all, key message is regardless of the industry you're in. We saw that in one of the slides. If you dive into the research of, let's say, the traditional sales and how that moved online, there we can also see that for some industries where traditional sales has been very dominant in the past, let's take life science and healthcare, that even their B2B buyers are wanting to have that online experience. But if you talk about the fastest moving industries, I would say automotive is number one, or let's say in random order. If I had to name three, automotive, engineering and sport, which Gianluca spoke about, and also technology and the consumer electronics industry. I think those are the fastest moving industries because there is a low level of customization of the products. See buyers with private individuals are also buying online. So those three categories: engineering, manufacturing, automotive, and
right,
technology.
Right, I think we may have some technical issues with Lindet's connection. Right, perhaps maybe let's move on.
Automotive and technology, would I say, are the fastest.
Right. Thanks, Lindet. So, yep, moving right along to the next question. Thank you, Lindet. Right. The next question, they would also want to see the credit period they get, and this will impact their cash flow. I believe this is talking about B2B businesses currently getting some form of credit terms. So perhaps I can direct this question to Gianluca. Gianluca, in your opinion, what do you think are the ways to overcome businesses who is buying from you and they require certain form of a credit period?
But I mean, credit, of course, is a major issue. But credit, how we did overcome the credit risk and the credit issue, basically selling all worldwide. When you export, I mean, all customers paid us in advance. We don't have, when you sell abroad, you don't have a credit related to your sale. Because the customers abroad pay you in advance. So in our case, in our history, we overcame the product just selling abroad, which has a double benefit. So enlarging our sales and overcoming this credit issue. And so my suggestion is to develop the worldwide sale, which is very, very, very potential with e-commerce, and help you overcome the credit issue. This is my suggestion.
Right. Thanks, Gianluca. Thanks for your insights. Now, the next question we have in Slido is, what would you say is the biggest challenge for companies moving in this space? I see that Linda is back, and Linda, would you help us take that question?
Yes, apologies for the internet slight breakthrough. That's how depending we are on technology. I would say the biggest challenge is having that digital first mindset. Again, not digital only, but digital first. And every step you take within your company, you should be thinking about, okay, how can this contribute to optimize my online sales channel and to optimize my e-commerce portal? So I think that's the biggest challenge you have to overcome. And with that, also making sure that you have the right skill set, and either you have it internally or you hire it from externally, or indeed you work with the right partners, which we saw on the slide of Gianluca as well. But I would like to call those two, having that digital first mindset and making sure you have the right skill set in-house in order to really accelerate in this space.
Thank you very much, Linda, for addressing the questions. Next, perhaps I'll direct questions for Gianluca. Gianluca, what is your biggest advice for small businesses to start B2B e-commerce? What is the key sauce or the key success factor?
Very difficult question. I mean, my advice, developing an e-commerce, I think there are three big issues. One is the IT platform. The second one is the digital marketing campaign. And the third one is, I think the most important, the team, the key people. So my advice is for developing a successful business is, first of all, to find the right person. You have to have the right person, the right team. I mean, a digitally mindset person, very focused on digital and with the right capabilities. So first of all, you have to have a great team. Second, of course, the digital platform. The digital platform is something that you can develop quite, easily all around the world. So I wouldn't say it's a hurdle, but it's not something that you cannot overcome. And very important is the digital marketing expertise, because if you want to sell online, digital marketing is key success to sell online. So I would say, to sum up, that there are these three items very important developing a successful small B2B e-commerce.
Yep. Thanks, Gianluca. So for the next question, perhaps I'll invite both panelists to perhaps give your opinion and give your insights. What is the most important in B2B e-commerce? The website, shipping terms, or the price that businesses set for their products? Maybe start off with Linda first.
Yes. I think that the least important, to turn the question a bit around, is the price. That's also something which came out of the research, which is showing it's really the most important thing is the customer experience on your website, and how easy it is for your buyers to transact online. So I would say your website is number one, but then with the emphasis on customer experience and customer journey. But you should not forget about the shipping terms, because similar as in B2C, your customers want to have the choice when, how, and where they will receive their goods. And most likely that's a question they will have very early on in their journey when they go on your website. They will see the products, they will see that you sell to that country, but another key question they will have in mind is, okay, how and when will I?
Right. I think Linda has faces issues on his network again.
And that's why it's important that you.
No worries, Linda. Maybe for the moment, Gianluca, may I invite you to perhaps also offer your insights into this question? What do you think is the most important?
I mean, everything is important. I mean, there is not one single element which is important. It's important, the mix. On the product side, for example, it's important to have the right range, to have the right products that do not have a lot of competition on the web, which is something that is useful to have. Not the pricing, very important, because I mean, if you open a B2B e-commerce on products which are very present on the web, it's quite difficult, and the price is going to be much more important. Very important is the shipments. So my suggestion is that you try to find in your marketing mix, in the marketing mix of your e-commerce, at least one element which is successful for you and which distinguish you from the competitors. And so you have to strengthen and communicate well this important. So I would say it's a matter of marketing mix, and try to be excellent in at least one of these components of a marketing mix, and push this element to differentiate you from the competitors.
Right. Thank you, Gianluca. Okay, perhaps we have time for two more questions, just quick two more questions. What are the ways to drive internet traffic to B2B e-commerce website instead of customers going direct to distributors? So probably Gianluca, you'll be the best person to help us answer this. You know, how do we drive customers to shop on Mr. Worker?
Yeah, okay. As I said, the importance of digital marketing when you are running a B2B e-commerce is crucial. Digital marketing is the key. And how is done digital marketing? There are many components, but I would say that I mean, digital ads is the key component. Then you have SEO, search engine optimization, and then you have all newsletter and email, all this kind of email marketing. So these free tools are very, very important when you think about building traffic to your website. Of course, if I would have to suggest, I would say the three are very important, and you have many other ways like social media, for example, it's the fourth way. But I think in B2B, social media are not so effective as in B2C. And about these tools, what I can say is that the most difficult one, but the most powerful and productive one is SEO, search engine optimization. If you're able to build your website, your e-commerce in a way that Google automatically finds it and return to customers interested in the kind of products you are selling, this is the best. So my suggestion is to, be able to manage all these aspects, as I said, Google Ads, search engine optimization, newsletter and digital email marketing, and of course, social media. Then there are many others, of course. And for me, the most important and the most successful is search engine optimization, which is something that if you can do, will give you fantastic results at a very low cost.
All right. Thanks, Gianluca. Thanks for offering businesses this very useful tip here. So last questions, what are the key lessons B2B can learn from the B2C playbook? So Linda, perhaps you will be the best person to help us share on this.
Yes, if my internet connection will not lose me this time again. I think it's really, I mentioned in the previous answer, think customer experience and go online on your own website and see how easy it is to buy something on your website, or ask a panel or ask a focus group to do that for you. And that will most likely bring you lots of insights. And it's also a way of constantly optimizing your customer journey, thinking about how many clicks does it take when somebody enters my website until they reach the checkout and click the buy now button. So I think it's those things to really make your customer experience as easy as possible, with the least hurdles as possible. And any hurdle you can remove in your process online in order to get customers quicker to the checkout and quicker to the buy now button, that is something what B2C customers or B2C companies have made an art. That's why they have teams of hundreds of people focus on to really think about how they can optimize those tiny steps. And I think that is one of the key lessons that companies can learn from the B2C book, and really make trading with your company as easy and as effortless as possible.
Thanks for sharing that, Linda. So we have come to the end of today's webinar. I'd like to thank all of you for your questions, and our apologies for some of the technical glitches faced. And if we do not have time to answer all your questions within this webinar, feel free to reach out to us or to your respective DHL sales representatives. We will be sending out a post-webinar survey to you via email, and we appreciate your feedback and suggestions. We will also be making the recording of today's webinar available for your viewing. Once again, thank you for spending the hour with us. We hope you have enjoyed today's webinar and find it beneficial. And we look forward to seeing you at our next session. So do stay tuned for more information coming your way. Till then, take care and goodbye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.